All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you. I know there's nothing like a hearing around the Epstein files to get everybody excited. I'm sure you're full of anger and displeasure, and these are the things that fuel this show. And I am excited that
you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Sure.
Answer my question.
No,
Right,
I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
The
answer the question the way I asked it.
Chairman
How many have you
Jordan, I'm not
indicted?
going to get in the gutter with these people.
How many have you-
I'm going to answer the
How
question.
many have you indicted?
there is
the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very
How about
interesting.
my
My
time?
time.
I'd like to reclaim my time, if I could, please. You know, I just don't think that. Well, it's my show ostensibly, and it seems like it's my time to reclaim. But Kim is here, and
Kim, how are you?
Albert is here.
Albert, thank you.
Albert already seems to be outpacing everyone on this show for Employee of the Month, and it's incredible because he only shows up 2 days a week. But he has a sense of industriousness, getting stuff done, that clearly is a reflection of the fact that his body has been taken over by another being. I don't know what you've done with Albert, sir, but whoever you are, return him. We're used to mediocrity and C+ work on this show, and you are providing work well in excess of that. And I'm astounded by it, and I'm concerned about it.
It's like I was exercised. It's like something happened to my body.
I'm telling you, you've
Something has taken control over me.
I don't know what's happened, but whatever it is quite wonderful. I'm delighting in my fresh cup. I just have a second cup going of Coachella Valley coffee. This is in the Born to Peacefully Protest mug, which you can get our logo on the backside tastefully put in there. You can get all that stuff at getmarkmerch.com, and you can sip coffee with the rest of us, the Coachella Valley coffee, which comes from CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Kim rocks the Moroccan. She likes the tea.
So good.
Yeah. So we get Kim the tea. I drink the coffee. I also have the loose leaf tea. I do drink the loose leaf tea. Just on the show, typically, I'm drinking the coffee. Mm-hmm. And they have tea and coffees of all sorts. This is a boutique roastery, hand-roasted coffee. Check them out at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The important thing is that before you buy anything, put in our discount code, MARK-T, and you'll get 10% off.
Put that coffee down.
MARK-T at checkout, and you'll be able to get 10% off. Never a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm still trying to get over those hearings. We played a lot for you yesterday because they were going on concurrently with our show. I thought it was pretty impressive, the way that we rallied cuts for you, and we'll have cuts for you today. I also have John Aravosis coming in. I love my John Aravosis. Can't get enough of my John Aravosis. He is a TikTok monster, and he is someone with deep knowledge of politics, worked in Washington, ran for Congress, I believe. Also, he's a friend of the show, been here several times, and if you've missed him in the past, you'll be in for an incredible treat. He joins us bottom of the hour. Second hour, the brilliant legal analyst David Katz. Yeah, that's pretty cool, too. So all of these things are things to look forward to. Is there anything else that I have to attend to, Albert, before I begin this magnificent presentation, which we've been working since the end of yesterday's show to produce for today? I mean,
I'm sorry. We have to go.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, then let's do it.
I think we're ready to get into the show.
I think so. All right. Without any further
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right. I think the news that is worth visiting in part is the news that comes with a blowback on the part of Democrats and Republicans. The blowback's the Republicans who are finally saying enough on Donald Trump's tariffs. This is a big story because the tariffs are being wielded in a chaotic way, in a vengeful way, in a way that has set back American diplomatic relations by decades, and I'd suggest to you in a broader sense, has suggested a change in the world economic order potentially in the next decade. And there are a lot of things going on right now that support that general thesis. I'll give you one of them. The adversarial footing that Trump has sought with Mexico, with Canada, and with the European Union has led the latter, the European Union, to begin to consider things in relation to America that they wouldn't consider before. You know, the American dollar is the default currency worldwide. We've talked about it before, and the fact that the petrodollar is being undercut all the time. There are attempts to undercut the petrodollar. It's done in the way of trade. You saw that with the Venezuelan interdiction of that ship. There was no money actually changing hands. That ship on the way to China with oil, or at least that was Chinese oil. You heard that the idea was that it was in return for debt payment. In other words, there's no real money changing hands, and that's just a little way in which you can, if you will, undercut the petrodollar. But there are much bigger things at play here. And of course, China and Europe are both now efforting in ways that they hadn't in the past to undercut that petrodollar. Without getting too intense about this, I want to mention this. Europe is considering banning Visa MasterCard from Europe, the European Union. There's a reason for that. Those are American companies. And the reason is the destruction and destabilized environment that Donald Trump has created has reminded Europe that America may not be our friends, and our power, if you will, economic power, lies in things like this. I've always talked about soft power and how Trump is so foolish because America's soft power is in our economy. It's in our consumer economy. It's in our service economy. There's so much here in America that is truly powerful. It's got nothing to do with warships and nukes. It's soft power. Even our USAID is soft power. It's American presence, and you're doing good for the world. But that, lands dully on this administration and Donald Trump. Knows nothing about it. Wouldn't consider it. So now American companies, powerful companies, Visa, MasterCard, may be barred from Europe. They won't allow them. So you'll end up in a far different place, I think, over the next decade, completely as a result of the adversarial footing that Donald Trump has put us on with our friends, our economic allies, and our strong economic connections to Europe, Canada, Mexico. Now to Canada. So on the Canadian tariffs, in the House, 6 House Republicans joined Democrats, just happened late yesterday, and passed a resolution to repeal the Trump tariffs on Canada. 219 to 211 was the vote. And it's Don Bacon from Nebraska, Kevin Kiley, these are the Republicans, obviously, from California, Massey from Kentucky, Hurd from Colorado, Fitzpatrick, Newhouse, and then all the Democrats, right? And again, this resolution would terminate the Trump use of a national emergency to impose these punitive measures on Canada. There was one Democrat who voted no, and that was Jared Golden from Maine. The idea that Trump can impose these tariffs at all is insane. I mean, this national emergency crap is something that he's wielding around. This is a lawless administration without a respect of any kind. I don't even know how this will all end up ultimately being ruled upon by the Supreme Court. But I think if David Katz is right, and you'll hear from him again in hour two, SCOTUS will rule against the president having any power to impose these tariffs, will rule against a national emergency. And that said, I think what you'll end up with is an opportunity for this administration to really show itself in other ways, right? It's going to flex and try to impose these tariffs using other loopholes, whatever they may be.
Of course, in true Trump fashion, he's now threatening consequences for the Republicans that voted against the tariffs on Canada. And you would think there would be some kind of rhyme or reason to the imposition of tariffs on different countries. But I was reading this one story about Switzerland, and he, first of all, said they have a prime minister, but they don't. They have a president. He said he imposed tariffs on Switzerland just because he didn't like the way the, quote, prime minister talked. They don't have a prime minister.
Well, yeah, he has a lot of, he says that a lot. He's doing this with Canada, too. It wasn't in response to any kind of substantive policy statement or sense of substantive policy. It was, I don't like the way they've been treating us. What does that mean?
Right.
Treating us how? You're really dealing with utter fiat, the thoughts of a mad king. And this will have an effect on the American economy. And it's an extraordinary thing to think you can wield this power with that kind of caprice. But he does. And so, again, he has threatened, as you're saying, retribution. He's talking about primarying those who vote against him. Here's the Truth Social post, I think. They sincerely, I think, voted for it because it was important for their constituency, and they were standing up to, Donald. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's from. I'm trying to find any Republican in the House or Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time, and that includes primaries. He wrote. He said tariffs have given us economic and national security, and no Republican should be responsible for destroying this privilege. Yeah, it's I don't know what to say about this. It's so clearly wrong. I mean, it's so clearly absurd. It's economic suicide in a way. And one of the Republicans, I think the sponsor of the bill was it a Democrat sponsored the bill, of course, but I want to say it was who issued the tweet that was kind of it was Meeks, I believe. Yeah. So Meeks introduced the bill and actually tweeted as well. Again, the tweet X, whatever, posted on social media. Wrote, they sincerely, I think, voted for it because it was important for their constituency, and they were standing up to, Donald Trump, who thinks he's king. To say I'm going to do what's best for my constituents first is what they did. So I thank them for their courage and for what they did, and I hope they will be with us as we look at other tariff bills put forward by the president, as we then continue to try to have a vote to discuss those issues. He blasted Trump's tariffs on Canada, calling the country one of our strongest allies. Obviously, that is true. Canadians give their life for us and various people, and all the president has done from the time he became president was insult them, calling them the 51st state, putting these 35% tariffs, not allowing the bridge to open up between the United States and Canada. Meeks has also introduced resolutions to terminate the national emergencies, justifying the Trump tariffs. Now, it'll likely pass the Senate, and then it'll be vetoed by Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the likely fate of all of this. But it's a real sign that this party is beginning to break from Trump as Trump loses popularity. And you saw that Gallup is no longer going to poll for presidential popularity and approval any longer.
That interesting. After more than 80 years, all of a sudden they've decided that, this thing that we use to measure the job the president is doing, we're not doing it anymore. Wonder why.
Kim is so right to point to the fact they've been doing it for so long, because it's really been sort of the North Star on popularity. Now, polling has changed, and it's been an effort in the contemporary environment to poll in a way that really represents the kind of result that you feel is reflective of sentiment, with cell phones, with people turning down calls? Things are identified as spam as they come into your cell phone. It's harder to get people to vote and to really get a representative sample. It used to be they just would call people and, they pick up the phone that's in the kitchen, whatever. Those days are way gone. So the idea now is that there's a challenge to polling, but that's not the reason that Gallup got out of this game. Gallup got out of this game, I think, because there is pressure from this administration. I think there are government contracts associated with Gallup. I think there are other reasons. There are economic business reasons that Gallup did this. They certainly did not do this. They didn't drop one of their most important polls in terms of public consumption just because they decided to concentrate on other things. It's when you read, I've left this organization because I want to spend more time with my family. That is just a sign that somebody was pushed out. Okay. In any case, it's a huge change in what's happening with this government and with this government leveraging business the way they are. So again, I'll be curious what Aravosis has to say about this, but I think it's a sign of a worsening relationship between the executive and his party. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's ruling like a mobster, and mobster tactics have more than worked so far. But ultimately, the legislative process may begin to bite back at him, and I think that is what we're seeing a little bit of anyway in this move, even as he has a chance to veto it. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
The Aravosis is here. Oh, that's great. Well, that's cool. He's got a live thing going on. I think in like a half hour.
What?
2 hours. I don't know. I subscribe to all his stuff, so I get these alerts that he's got something going on. I know. All right. I'll table some of the supercuts. I might play for him a little bit of the hearing that was such a bizarre. It was like a cross between, I don't know, it felt, the old, rap smack. What was that, Albert, where they're putting each other down when rappers used to, it was in 8 Mile or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Battle rap?
Yeah, battle rap. Felt like battle rap to me. It really did. It was unbelievable. Anyway, I'll play a little bit of that for Aravosis in a second. I just want him to stand by while I recognize a new partner onto the Mark Thompson Show. I'm talking about, yes, maybe you noticed, Zelman's Minty Mouth. I love it. I
did notice you have fresh breath this morning.
Well, thank you, Kim, for saying that.
Yeah.
I know you're only playing to the theater of the moment, but it's still appreciated. Zelman's is a remarkable thing for the technology, the engineering, if you want to call it that goes into it. In other words, it is and looks like a little mint, and it's covered with a little minty outside shell. These are tiny capsules covered with that little minty outside taste. So I pop like 3 at a time, usually after a meal, and it gives you that sort of minty thing. But then when you get to the capsule, you swallow the capsule, and that's when the action starts. So there is parsley oil inside that neutralizes a lot of the things going on in your stomach that produce bad breath. So I want you to know, we road tested this. Courtney and I road tested this for a month before we brought him on the air. I didn't want to bring him on the air unless it really worked, and it works. Zelman's Minty Mouth, and if you order Zelmans.com, Zelmins.com, and you use the code MARKT at checkout, you get 15% off. 15% off your order.
What?
I know. Zelmans.com, Zelmins. Use the code MARKT, 15% off. You will be astounded at how it actually works. And thank you for supporting our partners here. Zelmans.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, you've waited for it long enough. This is an American Democratic political consultant, journalist, civil rights advocate, blogger, John Aravosis, an attorney living in D.C. in the belly of the beast. founder and executive editor of Americablog and the Aravosis Report, which I regularly consult. The Aravosis Report, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. How about it for John Aravosis? Look at you, you handsome fool. Nice to see you.
Hello, Mark.
I wonder if you could speak to me about, first, what we were talking about in relation to the bite back that the GOP is now showing a bit of on the Canadian tariffs.
I wasn't listening to your show earlier, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the legislative effort that has now passed the House, will likely pass the Senate, to say, hey, Mr. President, there is no national emergency that justifies these Canadian tariffs.
That blew my mind. And it's funny, I was trying to talk on my show about it, but it's kind of hard to explain to people because, first of all, I worked in the U.S. Senate. I didn't work in the House. Each one has its own procedure that is very complicated. And what they voted on was weird. I was sort of trying to explain to people, it's kind of like they voted on a law that would ban them from voting on any more laws. They basically wanted to vote to tie their hands so they couldn't undo Trump's tariffs. And you're like, well, if you didn't have enough Republican votes to undo Trump's tariffs, what's the problem? Why do you have to vote to ban Republicans from voting to undo Trump's tariffs? Because they were afraid there were enough Republicans who wanted to undo them. Yeah, no, that was great.
So let me just, there are two things going on. The House measure that Aravosis is talking about is the measure that was essentially a shield that was being provided so that Trump is able to levy these tariffs. And Mike Johnson was really leading the charge on this. And now there's a pushback on that. The other thing that happened in the House was that the Canadian tariff that was wielded by Trump most recently, I'm talking about, and the closure of the bridge and all this other stuff that he's doing with Canada, that was ruled upon in the House and passed the House as a way to say, no, this particular tariff on Canada, Mr. President, we believe there is no national emergency. Now that goes to the Senate.
That like today? Because that was coming. I didn't see it happen.
No, you're right. It happened late yesterday. So it was kind of, yeah. Now it'll go to the Senate, and then it likely will pass the Senate, I'd suggest. And then he, of course, as you know, John, will veto it. And so we're left in the same place. And he's saying, everybody who voted for this, I'm going to come after you, I'm going to primary you, et cetera. So it's the normal Trump smack talk. But I'm more concerned with whether or not you think, leave this aside, that his political power is eroding in any way. The mobster power with which he's ruled, has that begun to erode?
Yes, not enough, but yes. Previously we would not get anything out of the House of Representatives or Senate that was anti-Trump at all, right? I forget what there was in the last month or two. Something else went through and we kind of went, oh, that was interesting. Actually, the Epstein stuff,
sure,
right? That passed the House and we all went, that was weird. They're forcing Donald Trump to release the Epstein files, right? And then Trump thought politically he didn't have a choice but to say, okay, I'll do it, right? So it's begun. On this one, it's not like there were a ton of Republicans that crossed over.
That's
they
true.
needed just enough, which was still hugely important because by doing it, it's a smack in the face to other Republicans and to the leadership and to Trump. But he's also, to some degree, it's funny because Trump has pissed off enough Republicans and basically some of them aren't running again. Some of them he's trying to defeat, which gets them all pissed off. And so that they're now voting against it. But no, it's beginning. Unrelated, but I think related. I was looking at this story in the last couple of days too. Trump is now speaking out against Doge, Elon Musk's young little pimple boys who are running around cutting all the programs. And Trump, like a day or two ago, goes, oh, I wasn't happy with that at all. They cut too much. I wouldn't have done it that way. And you were like, you literally did it. What do you mean you wouldn't do it? Who do you think?
You enabled it. Exactly.
No, he didn't just enable it. You think some 22-year-old kid working for Elon said, oh, today we're going to eliminate USAID in the Department of Education. And Trump sat there in the Oval Office going, please stop. I wish I had power to stop you. But the point is the fact that he's freaking out about it now and about Doge of all things means they're really worried. They're seeing polling that's freaking them out. They pulled out of Minneapolis, or at least they announced today they're pulling out of Minneapolis. The military occupation is ending. God, there were polls about the economy. People are freaking out. Polls about energy prices. People think Democrats are now going to be better. Inflation, obviously, he doesn't care about inflation. He doesn't care about unemployment. Thank God the polls are so bad that I think they've always felt pressure, but maybe the Republicans are finally buckling and going, okay, if I turn against him, he can turn against me. But if I don't turn against him, I'm going to lose my job in 10 months.
Right. I think this is such a good point you're making, that they're hearing on the street, in effect, that he's not popular in any way. And so they can have a death grip on the president, but ultimately they'll go down with him.
Let me put a finer point. If you turn against him, Trump may try to end your career. If you don't turn against him, your career is over.
Yeah.
So in November, so better to maybe turn against Trump and save your career for now, or just kiss it goodbye and okay, then why? Why would you fall on your sword for Trump and end your career? That's the only reason they're obeying Trump, is to save their career.
Yeah, I think also they're scared. I think they're scared of going against this president. I think they're scared of political violence. I think they're scared of the militias turned loose. I don't know how legit that fear is, although I'll say that the pizza delivery thing they do, where they sort of let you know they know where you live, that's a real thing. And so,
Mark, there were House members, Republicans, who, it must be the ones who said they weren't running for election again or whatever, because they're always the brave ones, and during Trump's first term. And I remember one of them saying on TV, the members are literally scared for their lives and their families, because every time they take on Trump and he names them, they get death threats. And they literally said they're afraid for their safety if Trump turns on them. And you're going, listen, what boggles my mind is, and I'm sure I must have probably said this in your show before, like, do none of, as an aunt in Greece once said to me, she was actually pissed about Hillary Clinton, which was funny. We had an argument about Hillary. She should have left Bill. And I said, she deserved her shot at higher office too. And at that point, she leaves him. He got what he wanted and she gets nothing. Like, it's his turn to help her, even if he's been kind of scummy. And she goes, your self-respect is more important than a job. And it boggles my mind, like literally like 3 of these guys out of 215 or 17 they've got now, only 3 of them are willing to stand up and go, yes, you're bad for the country. All the other 212 or 213 want to keep their jobs, even if it hurts the country.
No, it's such. Your aunt was so right. I mean, it's funny in my mind.
I mean, I don't know if she's right about Hillary.
No, she's right about the self-respect part. Maybe I don't know.
In general, your self-respect is more important than a job. Yes.
Look, I'm not weighing on everything your aunt said. Okay, I was just making the point.
We're defend ourselves. You're going to get mail. You're going to get mail.
I did. In my mind, I did reflect and do reflect on the way in which the medal stand of those who've sold their soul constantly shifts. Like I think Marco Rubio is a gold medalist one week, and then I think Tulsi Gabbard is a gold medalist another week. Yeah. And there's just not enough room on the Olympic medal stand of selling out your values to suck up to this guy for all the people who have done it in this administration.
I used to be a Republican like 30 years ago. I worked for a Republican senator. It still never ceases to boggle my mind how much they don't care about anything that they profess to be their values. Yeah, we know they're liars and this and that, right? But had you told me before Trump that Republicans actually don't care about family values, that Republicans actually don't care about the national defense, that Republicans actually don't care if Putin takes over half the world, right? I mean, Republicans don't care about NATO and defending NATO and defending Taiwan even, because I think that'll be the next thing from Trump. I would have gone, you're out of your mind. And that they'd be okay with, like, all the crap Trump has done and been accused of, Jeffrey Epstein and everything else. I would have said, no. There is a certain point where they actually do believe in this stuff. They don't believe in anything. Anything this guy's been willing to say, or if they do believe in it, again, they don't care enough about it because they care more about saving their jobs. In a million years, I wouldn't believe there were this many. And even the death threat bull BS, I can't believe that that's the only thing going on. They're the stereotype of Democrats to some degree. They're like the biggest wimps who just kind of cave because he's mean to them. And right. They're like little snowflakes. Actually, they're snowflakes about everything.
Yeah, but you're right. The pitch is always that Democrats are that way. And the truth is really the GOP is that way.
I mean, for Republicans not to be willing to stand up and say, no, we do believe in certain core values. I mean, the spending, they're always spending though. That's, he's adding to the deficit, but they all do that.
Self-respect, Mark Elliott says. That train left the station a long time ago. They only respect money now, not family values, our kids, veterans, healthcare. It is remarkable the number of different causes that really you'd think would be bipartisan. Veterans comes to mind there just in that list. And and veterans are getting totally screwed under these guys.
Well, he doesn't care. I mean, again, Trump is easy, right? He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Trump is either you bribed him or you pissed him off. Like or you're going to give him a prize. There's very few things that motivate Donald Trump. The Republicans in Congress, though, like you said, like all these issues they claimed they cared about, they really don't. And I say don't meaning even if it's, well, Trump threatened me, then you really don't care about those issues. Caring about the issues means no. We lay the line, we draw the line on certain issues, God, freedom, this stuff, like the Second Amendment. I mean,
even that Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment, who could have predicted that one?
Just in this, because you've mentioned it, the one thing that apparently from a value standpoint he stands behind is coal and coal energy, dirty energy. Yeah. And so yesterday, in the middle of all this other crap that was going on, and we'll touch on Bondi, et cetera, but Donald Trump was given a coal award. Okay? And as you know, he loves the coal awards. He loves any awards. Yeah. So he's really, I'm sure, he was angling for that coal award, for the clean coal award. So, Albert, do you have it? Here he is, a little bit of his acceptance speech, I'll call it. It was just a remark or two. Here he is.
In the very immediate future, and today I'm proud to announce that the Tennessee Valley Authority is taking action to save 2 major coal plants in Tennessee Valley Authority.
In response,
are we going to bring back horse and buggy too? I cannot. I mean, coal is so over. It is so dirty. Black lung for everybody. There you go.
Well, he rescinded the climate change thing. That just came out breaking news like right before I came on your show. They actually very nefarious what they did. I have to look at my notes and get the exact language, but they basically rescinded the government determination that climate change harms people and it harms the planet. By doing that, they literally took away the legal authority of any of the agencies to do anything about climate at all. I mean,
this is a huge thing that you're talking about, and it's something that they've really been working on for a while. This is like them planting the flag at the summit of something they've been climbing up for, I think, for decades, which is to fight the EPA's ability to regulate in any way these pollutants.
Yeah. But it also goes to all the science stuff overall. Diseases, all the mRNA crap they're doing now. They're trying to stop all the, was it the new flu vaccine or whatever the hell it is with mRNA?
Yeah,
I saw, by the way, I saw today a story that there's some new vaccine that's mRNA based for going after pancreatic cancer. That at least initially is promising. Pancreatic cancer is one of those, kiss of death things,
and brutally awful.
These are, but mRNA, those are the diseases. The diseases, and again, why do they want to kill all our mRNA research? Because it was used to stop COVID, and if it was used to create the COVID vaccine, and the COVID vaccine is evil, then we have to stop it from solving anything else. It's like there's something mentally wrong with these people. Not to mention,
guess that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you embrace disease, illness, the pollutants in air, water, soil, especially for a constituency? I'm talking about the coal manufacturing energy business that isn't that great. I mean, it doesn't represent some huge potential. I don't get it.
Bunch of Trump crypto. But I mean, again, it's Trump. It's Trump. This is all transactional. Or they gave money to somebody close to him that bribed him some other way. I mean, it's all it's all transact. I mean, how could you do it? Because he doesn't care.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's underpinned by self-enrichment.
Yeah, it's underpinned by self-aggrandizement in some way, whether it's monetary, an award, or that black president liked it.
Oh, right. It's undoing that. Using science
something
scores low on low information, MAGA folks. Let me just quickly say that's a comment from Basic Coding. Let me take you to yesterday, because You had alluded to it in your remarks just a couple of minutes ago that, you know, the Epstein file thing and the Epstein issue really brought both sides of the aisle together.
Yeah.
And even MAGA world really began that jihad some time ago. Now they're on the inside, of course. You've got an attorney general who is actively, and a Justice Department and a president covering up a lot of what was in these Epstein files and this release. Even this release of the Epstein files is only partial, as you know. And so here she is. Give me a little bit of Nagoose with her, Albert, if you would, because I thought this spoke to not just the Epstein file, but, you know, there she is after this tug of war she's doing rhetorically with everybody on the panel. Nagoose was just asking about the general state of the state at the Justice Department, how basic regulatory structures that have existed in the Justice Department are gone, but she fights him on that as well. Go ahead.
Quote, if you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you, end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it. Because you're chasing your pension, right? Pension. Your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement. The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless. And shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, "Kill him," at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers, right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the chief law enforcement officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year.
Stay with us for one second.
You're familiar with the public integrity section of the DOJ's criminal division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like it.
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney General, the time belongs to the gentleman from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the criminal division today?
Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the answer.
people work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer PIN.
You.
PIN will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about
Chairman,
this?
you know what the answer is? And I think I
What's
understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question, because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
No one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So
your district.
in any event,
who
I would
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by the
that was
witnesses?
censored, and then, of course, it devolves a bit. I mean, the whole thing was a mess. But I thought in that one clip, John, I just wanted you to see and I know you watched this hearing, but I just wanted everyone to see the way in which they were. And I know there's a lot of grandstanding in these hearings, but there were substantive reminders of how the Justice Department has become completely infiltrated by loyalists and how all even tepid regulatory structures have been washed away.
Yeah, they've got that. I thought, and I saw that clip yesterday. I thought he was referring to the guy in the New York Times. They hired a guy who put out working for another agency that kind of sounded white supremacist, and it kind of sounded, according to the New York Times, neo-Nazi. They just hired him at Homeland Security to run their online outreach. This is, it's not a bug. Sure. If you're looking to, and if you're looking to end democracy in our country, and I'm usually not extreme in saying this, she's the person you want, and these are the kind of people. The guy who calls cops to be killed is who you want if you want an authoritarian state. It's
how do you game this out? What do you tell your audience, John Aravosis?
Well, I've got to be careful because I'm on TikTok.
I was going to ask you about that in a minute or two, but go ahead. Yeah.
You can say on TikTok, and B, with this administration, I've been a political activist for 30 years in addition to all the other work I've done. I've never worried about the government. You've got to be careful what you say. If you say things that are illegal, that are proposing things that are illegal, they can come after you. The irony is civil disobedience is illegal, right? The point of putting yourself out to be arrested is illegal, so to speak. I've been quoting as Senator Gallego, who said that if Trump tries to nationalize, A, if he steals the election, B, if he tries to nationalize the elections, we need to shut the economy down.
That's John's just breaking up a little bit, Albert. Is that John or is that me that's breaking up?
I think that's a connection. The internet.
Okay, yeah. We just lost you for a second here, John. But you were saying Gallegos is calling for a shutdown of the economy. If now we got him back. If there's any move against the election, you were saying.
Yep. Rubin said if they try to nationalize the election, and certainly if they try to steal the election, we shut down the economy. And very interesting what he was talking about. He was on my show, Senator Gallego, and some other shows. He wasn't talking about a nationwide strike, which is kind of the cute thing the activists say, but I'm kind of like nationwide strike. Yeah, right. So some of us don't go to work that day. No. Rubin said, we shut down the economy. We make sure nobody goes to work. We make sure nobody's able to use the subway. No one's able to use the roads. Nobody's able to get to work. That's a whole other level. And again, this is a U.S. Senator saying it. I'm not saying it, but we're not there yet is the thing, which is the scary part too. So much has happened. They're murdering American citizens on the street, but we're still not at the point where we would shut down the country to stop this. Although we could do it potentially, partially with the budget stuff.
Right. And the budget stuff, give me one beat on that, because that is key.
We're talking about Homeland Security's budget, right, being negotiated in the House and the Senate. ICE is a part of that. ICE does have a ton of money, so they wouldn't be shut down right away. They've got maybe months worth of money, but still very important. It's Homeland Security overall. And Democrats want to force ICE and Border Patrol to wear cameras, to wear badges, to not wear masks, to have judicial warrants if they're going to, come to arrest you or break into your home. And of course, the Republicans don't want any of this. That's the one bit of leverage Democrats have. And at this point, and it's been pissing me off even more and more the more I watch this the last few weeks, I'm kind of questioning why we're funding any of these people at all at this point. With the kind of things Trump is doing, with even the stuff that happened at that hearing, I realize Democrats have to worry politically about not funding the government, right? We don't want to blow up in our faces as we're about to win an election in the fall. But man, I hope they hold firm and say, you know what, if you're not going to give us all of our demands, then we're not funding Homeland Security, and oh well.
Yeah, and sadly, Homeland Security includes some other important stuff, TSA, et cetera. So you end up with this kind of, and as you said, they've got a lot of money. ICE has a lot of money, but it is important, and it's a weird thing that we find ourselves in. I'm making this point yesterday, that all of a sudden we're discussing the demands that the ICE agents, agents in quote, whoever they are, the thugs, that they need a warrant to bust into a house. Hey, you need a warrant to bust into a house. That's kind of a basic foundation of living in this effing country. Now we're actually discussing this? This is like a concession I have to make, that you have a warrant? It's outrageous. No, you have to have a warrant to come into my house. That's the way the effing country is set up legally. And now all of a sudden, it's a negotiating point, John.
And you got people like the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, saying things like, it would be inconvenient if they had to get a warrant. It would be really, there's so many people they want to arrest, it would slow them down. Again, think about, and this is where all the Second Amendment people come in here, because they're the ones who claimed they cared about all this stuff.
Right.
It would be inconvenient for the government to follow the Constitution when barging into your home, armed thugs from the government. And you're all okay with that? That it would be, we wouldn't want to inconvenience them when they barge into your home with guns. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
it's
By the way, and this is just a note, you noted it earlier, the Minnesota ICE operations have finished and stopped. Thank you for Antifa Bob, maybe that was.
That's a cute name.
But it's important because I wonder to what extent the pushback on ICE in Minnesota was effective. Now they're pulling out there. Look, it was a mess. They executed, in my judgment, 2 Americans. I think that's indisputable, whether they're Americans or not. They executed 2 people, summarily executed them. And the protest from that community was so fervent that perhaps it produced this result. Minnesota now ridding itself of ICE, it would seem, for now.
Yes, and Alex Peretti's murder changed everything. The protests, very important, and I do think very important because it made things difficult. It gave people, actually, it really all kind of fed itself in the sense that day by day we were seeing videos of ICE overreacting, throwing actually Chicago too, right? Throwing those tear gas canisters that were getting 6-month-old. Remember the 6-month-old baby that stopped breathing? I mean, they every day they were doing more and more that people were outraged, which set you up. And then Renee Good, it all set you up for the Alex Peretti public execution, because had it happened on its own, I think it would have shocked people. But it was this steady drumbeat of abuses, violence, so that you were going, what more could they do? 8 guys could execute an American citizen on the street. That's what more they can do. So it all came together. I mean, in a way, I guess what I mean is I don't want to downplay Peretti and Renee Good's murders or killings, but at the same time, Peretti was the tipping point finally that the nation went, even Republicans said, and Trump handled it so badly. His people lied about it and then got caught, right? Yeah. Oh, he was a terrorist. He was going to take out dozens of agents. Yeah, sure he was.
I think that you're right. That was no small point. All right, in my last minute with you, tell me about TikTok. TikTok's been taken over. You're a major TikTok star, and the TikTok stars like yourself have always been able to speak their minds. And I think it's been a great little.
No, we haven't.
No, is that right? Okay, maybe that was my censor.
Okay.
Oh,
please. I censor myself every time I talk on TikTok and have for years.
Oh, terrible. I didn't realize that. You seem pretty uncensored, but all right, go ahead.
You'd be surprised. I'm quite serious. It's, on a show like this, you watch so that you don't use the F word. On a show like TikTok, every time I've got to talk about vaccines, about health care, about science at all, about the election. Oh my God, I get a warning on my screen every time I talk about the election stuff. 2020 comes up, I get literally a warning on my screen, election misinformation warning.
What does that mean? That you have to stop talking about it? Or if you get 3 of those that they bounce you, or what does it mean?
Who knows, which is the beauty of a totalitarian state. You don't know, which is part of it. I've had them recently, they timed me out for 10 minutes. They cut my live and I had to wait for 10 minutes to come back as like a little slap on the hand. That one I don't even remember. It was talking about this kind of stuff. Oh no, TikTok is horrible. If anything, it's either going to be worse or it could even be better because it's Americans doing it. Like look at Twitter. In the end, Elon was horrific at the beginning. I mean, Elon is horrific, but horrifically censorious at the beginning. And now he doesn't censor that much. He kind of lets us all talk on Twitter. TikTok censored you left and right on everything. Will they be worse with the Trump people? Maybe. They could even be better because you could finally be American censors that go, yeah, you're allowed to talk about frankly, you're allowed to talk about 2020. And I mean, even saying you thought the election was stolen, I don't know that I would ban somebody for saying that. I think it's bullshit and it's ridiculous, but I wouldn't ban them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And TikTok literally, the science stuff, forget it. Like I said, talking about COVID, oh my God, I'm terrified.
And I think there used to be a lot of good science stuff on TikTok. I mean, even when the Chinese owned it.
They're very bad. It's ridiculous, unfortunately. I mean, I hate to knock TikTok, this is my livelihood, but it's ridiculous how much they censor free speech on TikTok.
Well, I didn't realize that. I mean, you seem, maybe it's that I'm just not watching you wall to wall, so I don't see the 10-minute dropout that you talked about. But
let me tell you, I shouldn't even do this, it'll get me in trouble. We were told to be careful about suggesting people give us those gifts they give us. TikTok gets 50 to 60% of every gift we get. And we were told, you got to be careful of how you ask people, but you should definitely tell people, hey, we like the gifts, keep them coming. But if you say it like, for example, I was told I'm not allowed to say, guys, I do this for a living. This is my job. Your gifts help me keep doing this. So thank you. Oh no, that sounds like I'm asking for a quid pro quo. I'm like, no, I'm telling people I do this for a living. Your gifts help me keep doing this. Oh, you can't say that on TikTok.
That's wild.
It's
just wild.
Anyway,
it's your home court, and that's where you can find John Aravosis, the Aravosis Report. Yeah,
Substack too. So I'm pushing on Substack now too.
Oh, cool. Okay, so Substack as well. I'll tell you what. We'll link to. Can we do that, Albert? Under this video, we'll have a link to your Substack. And look, always great to talk to you.
Even be my Substack. Actually, that is my Substack.
Oh, he's got Albert's got it up there.
Thank you, producer.
Yeah, Albert's on top of it. The Aravosis Report, Aravosis, for those just listening and not watching. John Aravosis, huge fans here, pal, and look forward to the next visit. Thanks again for stopping through today.
Bye-bye.
All right, John Aravosis, everyone. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I know. I'm excited. Yeah. Albert, very impressive again. You had the Substack there. I am anxious to work in a couple of things before the counselor gets here. I'm talking about David Katz. It is big news that ICE is out of Minnesota, of course. But there's a crisis at the Kennedy Center, my friends.
What?
I know. Kim brought it to my attention today. She rushed in and said, have you seen this? The fundraising at the Kennedy Center is in deep turmoil. She said, use those words, deep turmoil. President Trump has brought in his top fundraiser to shore up the giving problem. People aren't giving, you see, at the Kennedy Center. A series of stumbles, they're calling it, by their development leader, former TV host close to Kari Lake. Trump intervened in January, tapped his longtime supporter, Meredith O'Rourke, to stabilize the Kennedy Center's fundraising operation. It's in trouble. So out was the old fundraiser, in is the new fundraiser. And this is the same fundraiser who was in charge of fundraising for, if you guessed the White House ballroom, give yourself points. Also help raise money to replace the Rose Garden with a paved patio. I mean, isn't that what you really wanted? You wanted the paved patio. Looking at all those roses, all that history, the Kennedy thing. Kennedy. Now it's Trump.
Even on the website now, you can see it's officially the Trump Kennedy Center at the top left there on the website.
My God.
What?
Yes. Well, that's it's incredible.
Which is closed for 2 years and is now having trouble raising any money, specifically because it says Trump on it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's
because he's gross.
I see. Well, the idea is that there was so much blowback. And there were so many artists pulling. I've talked about this. I talked about this the day it happened. Yeah. For those who actually thought, oh my God, he's closing it for renovations. No, he's not. He's closing it because it's become this problem now. because you've had so many artists pull out, you've had so many subscriptions cancel. It's a stink on him. So great, I'll just close it. I'm going to close it for 2 years. Yeah, for whatever, renovations, yeah. And that's what's happening. So he doesn't give a damn about the Kennedy Center or, reimagining anything. But to the degree that the Kennedy Center still employs people and that still need financial commitments, they have a fundraiser. And so they got the same person in who's fundraising for the ballroom and fundraising for the Rose Garden. And both of those things are grift. There are all sorts of payoffs and ways in which the president self-enriches on those two things. So, again, the president making changes at the Kennedy Center, but the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center, continues to be an issue. The other change comes in Donald Trump's decision to now meet with governors. There was that governors meeting. This is an annual meeting. It's a bipartisan thing. All the governors show up. 55 governors show up. Democrats, Republicans. And it's 55 because of the territories and, Commonwealth, et cetera, Puerto Rico, et cetera. So it's more governors than just the 50 states. And the idea was, as far as Trump was concerned, I'm not meeting with the Democratic governors. Trump's extreme vision of the world was played out in that declaration. Now, once there was a blowback to the credit of the Governors Association, they said we're not going to meet with them at all. We're going to cancel. I mean, no Republicans and no Democrats. Either you meet with all of us or you meet with none of us. So now Trump is saying I'll meet with all Democratic governors too, except Wes Moore and Jared Polis.
It has to feel good to get called out like that. Like, good,
maybe it is.
Anyway.
Right.
Excellent.
Maybe it's a badge of honor.
Yeah, they've offended him so much that he doesn't want them there, and that's a good thing, right?
I mean, this is wild. The invitations were sent out, he said, to all governors, Democrat and Republican, as he put it. And he lashed out at Republican Governor Kevin Stitt, the Oklahoma governor, the chair of the NGA, because he was the one who canceled the whole thing if Trump didn't want to meet with governors from both sides of the aisle, calling him a rhino, Republican in name only. And then he goes on to say through the White House that we're pleased we'll be welcoming governors from all 55 states and territories. So we'll have to see if indeed he does have this meeting. Paulus is from Colorado, and I don't know if in the end, I think he'll just meet with everybody. That would be my guess. Wouldn't it be yours, Kim? I don't think he's going to. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see.
So. But maybe Paulus and Moore from Maryland won't go. Maybe they'll just, they don't want to be there anyway. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't really know what his I don't know what his beef is, but I never know what his beef is half the time. As you know, the job numbers, I don't even know if you can trust the job numbers in the best of times when you're actually getting information from the government. But now in this Project 1984.5, where you're getting Orwellian descriptions of what's happening, I don't even know if you can trust these numbers now, most especially. But zero job growth in 2025, according to revised federal data. Hiring supposedly has picked up in 2026. The deficit set to now be higher by $100 billion, and the debt held by the public projected to rise from 101% of GDP to 120% of GDP. This exceeds all historic highs in the past.
This is
As
really,
you know, yeah, go ahead.
This is really interesting because the Republicans and Trump are touting, I'm the affordability president. Under me, the economy is just wonderful. But it's quoted by the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, that because of the things Trump has done, and that includes the one big beautiful bill, it includes the higher tariffs that you talked about, Mark, at the beginning of the show, all of the changes that Trump has brought in means the projected 2026 deficit is $100 billion higher, about total deficits from 2026 to 35, 1.4 trillion larger. Debt held by the public projected to rise from 101% of GDP to 120%. All of these exceed historical highs. So no, the economy 10-year long-term range is not better. We're in much worse shape.
When you talk about things like infrastructure and you talk about planning as a nation, if you're busy paying your debt, that's money that can't go to those things.
Yeah.
So this is the way the debt affects your life now. I know that we always talk about, well, those future generations are really going to be, I can't believe you're selling out future generations. Yeah, that too. But it affects you right now. And so this debt, which was, by the way, completely anticipated and predicted accurately by the CBO, $3 trillion of debt is added by this big, beautiful bill crap that he floated and passed. I mean, you've got real trouble here economically, and you add to that the encumbrance associated with the tariffs. It's trouble. It will really. I'd suggest the only way to deal with the debt. I mean, of course, what they talk about, the Republicans, is they need to cut. Cut everything from veterans benefits to Social Security to all these
to federal workers, right?
Subsidies, federal workers. They went after government in a big, big way. Well, that's not the only way you can address the debt, is it?
No.
What's the other way you can address the debt besides killing off all these wonderful programs? And by the way, these are rounding errors. USAID is a rounding error compared to all this. Their budget was nothing. And you could, again, exercise all of this soft power, and the beauty and wonder and ideals of America could have been played out in all of those ways that are reflected in USAID. But anyway, the other way you can do it besides cutting is revenue. Revenue coming into the government is tax revenue. If you, instead of reducing taxes on the richest Americans, you step up taxes on the richest Americans, you step up corporate taxes as well, you begin to put a dent in this debt. But that is absolutely not what's happening with this administration. They wouldn't even take a meeting on something like that, of course. You cannot spend. And by the way, then there's $10 billion that the President of the United States is shaking down the government for. His own government, he wants $10 billion from. I mean, the idea somehow that the chief executive who has to sign off on expenditures of that sort signs off on writing himself a check for $10 billion. This is in addition to the $230 million that he wants as well from the Justice Department. That money is another check that he has to sign off on. It's Bondi, Blanche, and Trump. They have to approve that, and that's $230 million he'll get. That was for the legal stuff.
And then
the $10 billion is for the taxes, the release of his tax information, just to remind you.
Don't forget the grifting of the crypto and the Qatari jet. So Trump will hopefully someday leave office, and he'll be sitting pretty. He will have raked in all the cash, and he will have left the United States in a financial shambles.
Yeah. I will tell you that tomorrow, this just might be of interest to you, and I think it's really a cool booking. We have somebody who is going to come in tomorrow who is a guest who knows a lot about sort of the physical state of Donald Trump, and who feels that fundamentally Donald Trump is teetering, and mentally and physically Donald Trump may not have long. This is what. And you're going to meet this guy tomorrow, and he's really quite good. I watched a lot of his stuff and cross-referenced a lot of his stuff, and I think it's going to be an interesting one. That is tomorrow. I think it will be in the first hour. We'll talk to him. So Trump may be, at least if you accept the general arguments, he may be in trouble mentally and physically, and so these last gasps of self-enrichment are associated with that. In Idaho, families are suing over the immigration raid that swept up hundreds, including U.S. citizens. The American Civil Liberties Union filing a lawsuit against federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. We'll ask David Katz about that when he joins us next.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Do me a favor, smash the like button, support this show. It costs you nothing. I appreciate you supporting the show. We put a lot of work into the show. We appreciate you smashing it
with your iron rod.
Smash it like a boss. Do it like it matters.
With your iron rod.
Yeah, smash the like button. And also, please subscribe to the show, share the show, and hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there is a new video. I want to talk about one of our new partners. We are
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about Sweet106bakery.com? Oh, my God. We love them. Their origin story is wonderful. Female entrepreneur, winner of Cupcake Wars twice.
What?
Yeah, the second time she was on Cupcake Wars, it was a bake-off against 50 champions. Well, Valentine's Day is here. It's this week. And this show is all about romance and love.
Who is having that conversation?
I'm having it now. And sweet106bakery.com is where you can get a what do you call those? Gift cards? Is that what you call them, Kim?
Yeah, you can get a gift card. You can give it to someone you love and say, please check out this website.
No, or you say, order the sweetest.
Yourself.
Look at this is unbelievable what you're seeing right now. If you're just listening, you're missing out.
Cake. Oh my God.
It is so good. So this is a layered cupcake. This is a creation of theirs. And it arrives to you, by the way, they bake everything to order. So when you order, they get that order, they bake in small batches, and then they send it out right away. It's ensured freshness and deliciousness. We road tested this for a month before we put them on the air, like we do everything. And it's incredible. The brownies, the cookies, but the cupcakes, otherworldly. So treat yourself or someone you love to something from sweet106bakery.com. My Valentine's Day cupcakes from Sweet 106 Bakery arrived yesterday, but we're waiting till Saturday.
It's Valentine's Day, right?
Unless I don't tell my family about them. Yeah, that's right. I see. Boy, they couldn't last till Saturday in my house. So my hat's off to you. Sweet106bakery.com. Use our discount code MARKT for 15% off. Sweet106bakery.com. Discount code MARKT at checkout. 15% off. You will be so happy. This is a wonderful, wonderful group. And this product is amazing. I could fill a bathtub with the Sweet 106 Bakery products and eat my way out all weekend. I'm telling you, I could do it. Sweet106bakery.com. Yeah. Use our discount code because get 15% off. Now, Kim, what have I neglected before Counselor Katz gets here? I thought we did want to...
there's a story that I'd like to bring up if I could.
Yes,
and
please.
I'd love your thoughts on that. You know that we successfully repelled the request for voter roll information in Minnesota. Remember, Bondi said, hey, we'll pull ICE out if you guys give me the voter roll info. Minnesota's Secretary of State said, no dice. They did the same thing in Arizona. Arizona's elections officials said, nope. They did the same thing in
nothing.
Thank you. Oregon said, nope. Well, now Nebraska is actually doing it. They are handing over sensitive voter data to the Justice Department. I know it's a red state, but there's a lot of Democrats in Nebraska, and this really freaks me out. So I would really love for you to talk about this story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the frontier of manipulating an election that they're working most aggressively, right? They're doing two things, I think, at minimum. One is the one you hear a lot of people talk about, which is they're looking on the voter rolls for anybody with a Hispanic name, Hispanic surname, and looking for ways in which they can divest themselves of all of these voters. Voter suppression is what it's called, right? And we had we had Palestine. Was it this week or last week? I don't remember. Last week, yeah.
Last week.
And so That's one thing. The other thing I'd say, and this goes to something that I think the specifics are vague on, but I think it's definitely part of a plan, and that's voter manipulation. Ways in which they can manipulate the vote, manipulate the count. And when you get voter rolls, when you know who's voting and how, there are, that's mail-in voters or at-the-poll voters, there are ways in which you may be able to potentially manipulate an outcome. So this is something that I worry about as well. So as they go state by state and demand these voter rolls, I mean, it's unprecedented. But this is not just the grievance around 2020. It is more than that. They're playing for the midterms. And Trump knows that his legislative life, his political life, depends on the midterms. And they'll stop at nothing to win those elections. So this historically unpopular president will lean into this situation in a big way. And I think you'll find that there'll be more of this and more aggressive tactics as it gets closer. So I'm glad we touched on it, because I think it's something that, as I say, you're going to hear more about. And I think there will be more inventive, aggressive, federalized ways. You've heard him talk about wanting to federalize the elections, that Trump leverages power to try to influence outcome. I'm talking about going after federal state election officials from the federal government. There'll be the federal government leaning on those state election officials. They'll be threatening them with all kinds of lawsuits. They're already leveraging a lot of lawsuits against them. You're going to see mobster tactics being imposed upon these many secretaries of states and others who have certification power when it comes to elections and have the power to admit the feds in to elections state by state. This will be something you'll see more of as elections get closer. So.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We're lucky on Thursdays. This guy is one of the leading political analysts in the English-speaking world. You've heard him on BBC, on London radio, on New York, Fox 5 in New York. I saw him on News Nation all the time, on Fox News Channel all the time. And then he's on New Zealand and Australian television. I'm so glad and proud that David Katz loans us some time on Thursdays and joins us with all our questions answered. The former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney, David Katz.
Mark, it's my pleasure to be with you.
It really is something quite extraordinary to have you in. I'm going to share with you a bit of what we saw yesterday. This is an organization that you used to be in the employ of. I'm talking about the Justice Department, and Pam Bondi, who faced questioning and really seemed committed to evasion and sort of this junkyard dog kind of blowback at all the questioners. Play me the supercut. Let's just run this for a second before Katz weighs in. Play me the supercut, if you would, Albert, and share with everyone a little of what happened yesterday, and then I want to get your remarks on the other side.
Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein.
This is from Illegitimate.
Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General
Twice.
Bondi,
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness gets to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
That's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't
It is
like the
my
answer.
time.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
why
I have asked
didn't
a
she ask
question.
Merrick Garland this?
I am
twice
reclaiming
when he
my
sat in
time,
my
and
chair?
when I
will
reclaim my
continue to
time,
answer.
it
Mr.
is
Chairman, the
my
gentlelady has
time.
reclaimed
I'm
her
not going
time.
to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators
Shane
are you
Nadler.
even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer
theatrics
the
are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman
How many have you
Jordan, I'm not
indicted?
going to get in the gutter with these people,
How many
but
have you-
I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time
I
belongs.
think it's very
Reclaiming
interesting.
my time.
I think it's very
Reclaiming my
interesting
time.
And you can
that
reclaim
he
your
talks
time.
about they
Reclaiming my time,
indicted.
Mr.
The
Chairman.
president said they
Close the
indicted
clock.
him
Mr.
twice.
Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and
And
stop
he
the clock and
indicted-
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will be in order.
theatrics.
The time
Reclaiming my
belongs to
time
the
and
gentleman
yield
from
back
New
the clock,
York.
please.
We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when
Reclaiming
you
my-
ask a question, the
The
witness
question
gets to
was-
answer. You may not like the answer, but she
Right.
gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer,
Reclaiming
Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So
my-
he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute
time.
question.
Restore 45
and
seconds to
I am
Mr.
going
Nadler, please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
my time.
answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything,
did tell you because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the
loser
Senate.
Lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I
Not a
said that
few more,
already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler. Go.
All
Reclaiming
right.
my time. The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0.
You are acutely aware of how important it is to protect the identity of victims of sexual assault,
This is
correct?
Hank Johnson.
I have addressed this multiple times. I think others were cutting me off when I was trying
Well,
to.
I just simply asked, are you aware of the fact that it's vitally important to protect the identity of sexual assault victims as you prosecute the people they accuse of assaulting them? Isn't that correct?
Excuse me. As we have said multiple times,
Protection of the
protection
identity
of all victims
of the victims
are
is
protected.
so very
Who are
important.
protected under? Do you want me to answer or do you want to interrupt?
Well, because you're not answering the question. You do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of routine around here, and I just want you to answer my questions.
What does Jekyll and Hyde mean? Can
Well,
you
it
explain
means
that?
you're nice to the
Explain that.
Republicans and you turn like Hyde on Democrats.
I want to know.
Okay, hold it right there, Albert. I mean, I really, one of the luxuries we have here, because we wouldn't have this on the radio, is being able to play you a longer cut. And that was a longer cut, just to give you a sense of the hearing. It was a mess. You could see the way in which she not only evaded, but sort of it's the new Trumpian way of attacking. It's right out of the Roy Cohn playbook. Could you speak to a little of what Bondi was doing and then address this question that came in? And this is from, I think, Tony Ladouty says, why can't the Dems hold Bondi in contempt and lock her up? I don't think they'll lock her up, but you're allowed in these hearings to ignore the questions and spit fire back if you want to?
Well, it's hard to know where to start. I mean, she's so not suitable to be the Attorney General of the United States. There's really never been, I think, anything quite like her. She says she doesn't want to get down in the gutter with her questioners. She's a gutter snipe. She's, I think one of the comedians said, if you had her as a neighbor, you would move quickly. And probably never go back to the neighborhood. She's vile. She's disgusting. She brings down the level of the Department of Justice. You said at the beginning, I used to be an official in the Department of Justice, an assistant U.S. attorney, and it cheapens all of that service that we gave. It's like having Hegseth be the Secretary of Defense. On some level, it cheapens and diminishes even the great service that the military has given over the years. Now, in terms of why she can't be held in contempt, it's simply because you see that so full of himself Jim Jordan in his shorts, in his without his jacket on, snarky, and it's actually going to. And so the Republicans control the House. They can't hold anybody in contempt because the Republicans hold the committee and they hold the House. And ironically, this is going to end up being a great ad for the Democrats in the midterm. This is all going their way. Here's a hugely important investigation, Mark, that the whole country and the world is into. What's going on with these Epstein files? And not only has Bondi and Trump completely blown it, covered it up, made a farce of it, as important as it is, but then you have Jordan acting all snarky, and the Democrats will say, look, you need to give us control of Congress, because until you give us control of Congress, none of these oversights will mean anything. People will just come in here and lampoon the process. This is how our system is built, Mark, on oversight, and the minority party has very important part to play in the oversight. And this idea that they can be lampooned and made fun of. I mean, she had a burn book with something derogatory and usually false about her questioners. And you wonder, I mean, what are the Democrats supposed to do? I suppose they could bring a burn book on the Republican members of the committee, and every time she burns one of them in their next question, they could say, oh, really? So there are illegal aliens who have been convicted of crimes in my district. There are supposed to be 4 of them. Well, you know, Congressman over here to my right, there are 500 of them in his district. But that's not what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to give tit for tat. We're trying to actually get to the bottom of, is she performing her duty as Attorney General, Mark? And is she pushing this Epstein probe forward? And when you get to the Epstein probe, she's been so deficient. And one of the reasons that she cuts them off and she argues with them and she acts so inappropriately is because she really can't answer the question. You know, if you can't answer the question, attack the questioner, act crazy, do all the things that she does, act so improperly, because the answers to the questions are that there are still 3 million documents that haven't been turned over. Many of the documents that the law actually passed by almost unanimously, signed by Trump under, of course, huge political pressure. He didn't want to sign it, but the political pressure was such they would have passed it. They would have overcome his veto had he tried to veto it. But the law required it, remember, to be turned over in the middle of December. Here we are, 3 million pages not turned over. There are so many redactions. Every time the Democrats look at the redactions, Mark, they find redactions under the redactions. They find things that absolutely should not be redacted. She said, oh, it's privilege. You must be a terrible lawyer not to know that. She said to Goldman, who's a wonderful lawyer and did a great job of questioning her. He was one of the people who handled, along with Adam Schiff, the first impeachment of Donald Trump back years ago. And of course, she's still, when are you going to apologize to him for conducting that investigation? She says to Congressman Goldman from New York.
Well, by the way, this is an important point. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to quickly.
Unforgivable is that she's turned over photographs, including nude photographs and names of the victims. I mean, just so incompetent, so uncaring. And that's why I think she lashes out, because she really can't take questions on a normal basis and answer them.
I wanted to ask you, or make the point, first of all, before I ask you, that I think she's just playing to Donald Trump. It seemed to me after a while. I mean, she's talking about the Dow.
Audience of one. Audience of one.
Audience of one. It's really so. Trump gave her, very high marks. He was talking about how terrifically she performed. So the more combative she was, the more she excoriated questioners. I think it was just all working for her. So that's really what's going on here. I want to double back to the question that I'm seeing a lot in the chat, which is, isn't there a way you can hold someone in contempt, et cetera? And you say, well, they're the minority party. But even if they were the majority party, you don't hold I think, a subject of an oversight committee hearing. You don't hold them in contempt for any reason, even if you're the majority party. Do you, David?
Well, this disruptive, impertinent way of hers would normally be contempt. If you had this kind of a colloquy with a judge, you would be held in contempt.
No, that's in a court, of course. But here, I guess they give you a lot more running room, I guess is what I'm getting at.
you're so used to the Republicans. If you had a firm Democratic chairman and chairwoman in charge of this committee, this absolutely would not go on. The minute that she's non-responsive, the minute she starts to filibuster, you would say, okay, that's it. Stay on the subject. I'm giving the questioner another minute of their time. So she burns up 15 seconds. They give the questioner another minute. She very quickly realizes that idea of running out the clock on her Democratic questioners wouldn't work because they would only gain from that. And any good, chairman, like any good judge, would make it very clear, very fast, that this kind of non-responsive, disruptive conduct is a contempt. Of course, attacking your questioner, this is the equivalent, except the Republican Congressman Jordan, Chairman Jim Jordan, lets her and other witnesses get away with this. The idea that a judge asks you a question that's pertinent to the inquiry, and you say, well, aren't you the judge who was investigated 3 years ago for such and such? On top of the fact that probably the judge was investigated and cleared, you can see that that's not only non-responsive, but it's pretty contemptuous, pretty fast, whether you're in Congress or whether you're in front of a court. But of course, a chairman that won't enforce the rules. And that's why I think the Democrats, Mark, can run on this. They can show these clips and they can say, the country needs to have a hearing, an oversight hearing on what's going on with the Epstein files. And this is what we get. This is what we get. It's a swing state. Don't vote for this Republican. What difference does it make? Well, not only am I better for cost of living issues, not only am I better on the environment, not only better on this, but ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a fair inquiry. We need to have oversight. And look what you have when you have the Republicans in charge. Turn the House blue and we'll have a real inquiry. We'll get to the bottom of who these monsters were in the Epstein files, and we won't be releasing the photographs and the names of women. They say it's through incompetence. Mark, incompetence. They put thousands of FBI agents on this. They stopped wiretaps. They stopped all these important inquiries around the country. They hailed one FBI agent after another, attorneys one after the other, government attorneys, to look over these files. They were late, and then on top of it, they release the names and nude photographs of victims. It's appalling. Why aren't these people fired immediately? They haven't been.
You don't even get an apology. And I thought one of the egregious examples was produced by Massey, who pointed out the email that was sent by an attorney to the Department of Justice saying these people are all the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual crimes, and they don't want their names released in the Epstein file release. Please make certain that you redact all of these names. There's a whole list of victims. And then, as Massey then showed, all of those names were released because they released the email requesting that the names be redacted. And then they redacted the name of the attorney. So it's not as though that just happened to slip out. It was clear that they looked at that document, they looked at that email, they redacted the name of the attorney, and all of those names of the victims, specifically asking that their names be redacted, they were released unredacted. I don't even understand what's happening there, except for the fact that I think it's the way Trump's Justice Department is warning all of those victims, we can influence your future in some really dark ways.
It's intentional, corrupt, obstructive conduct, Mark. This is stuff that is not just a mistake, it's actually prosecutable. And at some point, there will be prosecutive authorities who will look at this. There will be days of accounting. It won't be right now under Bondi, Kash Patel, and the Trump administration, but there will be days of accounting for what's been going on. And, around the world, this is a huge scandal. And people have had to resign in the United Kingdom. It's also had effects in Scandinavia for certain people. And but you look at something, let's just take the case of Howard Lutnik, raised a huge amount of money for Trump, had supported Clinton before, but he saw what he thought was the way the wind was blowing, and suddenly he became a Trump fan. And for raising so much money, he got to be the Secretary of Commerce. Now, he's the one who went on the podcast and talked about he and his wife were so disgusted, just one brief visit to Epstein's neighboring townhouse in New York City. He said the guy was gross. He'd have nothing to do with him. In 2005. 2008, Epstein is convicted of this soliciting an underage girl for prostitution. The whole world knows that. But of course, so gross, 3 years later, my God, you think even grosser now that he's been convicted. Totally false. When the Epstein files come out, Lutnik is shown to be a huge liar. Liar Lutnik. How can he stay in that job? You can't believe one thing he'd say. The idea that we would use him for any purpose that was important to the United States in terms of our commerce, he'd be laughed at. Can you imagine the people who would, he should be resigning by now. It's actually, I think it's good for the Democrats that he hasn't resigned yet, because he just sits there, you know, dead man serving in the cabinet, dead man walking and talking. But it's an absolute outrage. And then we find out from the files that he went to the Epstein Island. He not only went to the Epstein Island years after he said he was gross, years after he said that he had been, knew he'd been convicted, he not only goes, and he goes with his wife, and he goes with his kids to a pedophile's island. He takes his kids, he takes another couple and their kids. Now,
and the nannies, and that's not an incidental point, because he actually turned over the nanny's resume to Epstein.
You think he didn't know all of that? You don't think that he knew that the Epstein files would come out and show that? Can you imagine how much he and his minions lobbied Trump not to release those files? You wonder, where was the pressure? Why was Trump saying, let's just move on? He was not only his own interest, because Trump is mentioned 1 million times, Mark. 1 million times his name is mentioned. You may recall the under oath testimony of the head of our Federal Bureau of Investigation, Kash Patel, who said, oh, it's under 100. I've reviewed those files and it's under 100 mentions, he said under oath, and there were 1 million mentions. Why he hasn't been forced to resign is absolutely extraordinary when the history of this period is written. But yes, and you don't think that they would figure out who the nanny is? Why hasn't the FBI and the Department of Justice found that nanny already? Why don't we know about that nanny? If this were a real oversight hearing, that nanny would be testifying about what happened on that island, what Lutnik said, what her contact was with Epstein. It's pretty clear that, of course, Lutnik, let's say this, I wonder whether Lutnik facilitated that. Why not? He wanted something from Epstein. Why would he go to the island? Why would he associate with him? He wanted some quid pro quo.
They were in business together. We showed the documents yesterday that were from the Epstein files. I showed them here. That his signature is in the Epstein files on a business that they launched together, and his email exchange in which there was a Jeffrey Epstein pledge of a certain amount of money to a charity that he was involved in. That was also in the Epstein files. So very much to your point. And of course, the narrative that you just described is true. And it's, you know, by now we famously have discussed it, the request to meet you on the island. And then he says, oh yeah, I did have lunch on the island with him. My wife was there, and the nannies and our neighbors. And, you know, you're right. It stands in stark contrast to what he had originally said about never talking to the guy again.
But these things with Patel getting called out, committing perjury in front of Congress, and this podcast, which was so deceptive, these things, Mark, are not normal. People have been forced to resign in our history over much less. You go back and look at some of the great scandals in American history. They didn't have this kind of strong evidence that the person should be forced out of office.
This is where I get to the media, David. I mean, when you talk about forced out of office, who forces a Patel like this out of office? But the people who respond to what is a backlash that comes as a result of this being played up. I think there's the Patel lie. I mean, this is bald-faced lie and cover-up. It's lost in this fire hose of crazy that comes out of this administration. And so it doesn't show up in the media cycle, is what I'm saying.
Well, you know, there are some good things. One of the things is the courts, and I have to take a Katsadamas. I don't know if you were going to talk about this later on, but I just want to interject this. Last week on your show, I predicted that Judge Richard Leon in the District of Columbia, the U.S. District Court, District of Columbia, although a Bush appointee, a W appointee, I predicted that he would stop that bogus, vengeful investigation by Department of Defense Secretary Hegseth of our war hero, our astronaut, Kelly. And he did indeed. And he did indeed in very striking language. He just did that this morning. And so that investigation of Senator Kelly is completely stopped in its tracks. It never should have started. Of course, there's been other news with the grand jury, but this is the case where the Secretary of Defense is trying to demote and punish Senator Kelly on the theory that he has lesser right of freedom of speech because he is a retired military. And of course, that is not true. That's never been held. There may be some constraints or circumscriptions of the free speech rights of an active duty military officer, but none on a retired one. Kelly is a retired one. Kelly is just getting a pension. The idea that they can harass him and demote him is outlandish. The judge just said so. And if you think about it, he has even more rights to speak than the average retired military officer, who has all the rights to speak in the world because of the speech and debate clause. He's a sitting United States senator. So that has been stopped, and the judge said it was outrageous. And as I said last week, not only do I think that's going to happen, I think the government would be crazy to appeal it. There is no there in this case. And, you know, Mark, we should also be thinking about malicious prosecution, not just for that grand jury stunt by the U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. I always forget her name, the one who used to be on Fox.
You're talking about Jeanine Pirro. Yeah.
She's really looking at malicious prosecution. It has a 1-year statute of limitations in Washington, D.C. I expect that the 2 senators and the 4 Congress members that she hailed in front of the grand jury that then refused to indict, I think she's probably going to be sued within the next year before the statute runs by probably all 6 of them for malicious prosecution. It's a civil wrong. It cannot be pardoned by Trump. And I suspect that she will find herself like Giuliani, losing a case like that, having no resources. It's not a lot of fun to lose a civil case. There could also be punitive damages. They can grab your condo. They can grab other things like that. The idea that there's no consequences for someone like Pirro for that absolutely unconstitutional stunt of trying to get them indicted, and other people around the country like that. Remember, a pardon does not clear you from civil liability or a civil case. So she could be hit for malicious prosecution, and she could be hit for very substantial damages, including punitive damages.
People are asking, and this is related to Bondi and also maybe related to Pirro. They're asking about disbarment. Can you speak to disbarment as another form of accountability?
I'm very surprised that hasn't happened yet. Bar proceedings are confidential, at least until the point that bar accusations are filed. So it may very well be that there are bar investigations that are well afoot, well along the way against the people here who are members of bar associations. That would be Pirro. I don't think she's planning on being a lawyer when this is all over. And it sounds like she could not be, because probably like Giuliani, she'll probably be disbarred. There was that Professor Eastman or Eastland. I think it's Eastman out here. Yeah. He had been the, I guess, the dean of Chapman Law School. If I'm not right, or what's it called?
He's from Chapman University. That's exactly right. Yeah.
I think our acting U.S. attorney out here, this Asalyi, who's been so controversial, I think he's from that school. Sure. He's a mentee of Eastman. Anyway, Eastman has lost his right to practice law. I think he's been either disbarred. He's maybe fighting it. And, he has a right to appeal like everybody else. But they seem to have a pretty strong case against him. I know the head of the state bar, he used to be an assistant U.S. attorney. He's not a hack. He's a very competent guy. And if they proceeded with this case, and if the judges of the state bar court found it against Eastman, Eastman probably will be disbarred. I can't imagine why whatever bar that Pirro is a member of, is that her name? How do you pronounce it?
Jeanine Pirro, yeah.
Yeah, that she would not be disbarred. This is she had absolutely no basis for this charge to try to indict.
So these malicious prosecutions do have that accountability associated with them. I also
Mark, one last thing really quickly. They have 4 elements. One is that the case goes nowhere. I think this case is going to end up going nowhere. They could try to go back to another grand jury, but I don't think there's a grand jury in Washington, D.C. that's going to indict any of those 6. So you have a prosecution or an attempted prosecution. You have it go nowhere. You have it brought within the statute of limitations, and then you have to show some bad intent. The reason you normally can't sue your prosecutor for malicious prosecution is because the prosecutor has no bad intent. You know, they got a report from the FBI or the IRS, they evaluated it, they did all those kinds of things. We know that's not what's going on in these cases. These are vendettas. These are the weaponization. These are, you criticize me, and Trump and his minions will go after you for a criminal violation, even though you haven't committed one. It's absolutely the kind of mental element necessary for a jury to find, to then not only say that there was malicious prosecution as a tort, as a civil wrong, but also then punitive damages to deter people from doing that in the future. So the next Pirot, the next person, who's thinking of doing what she's doing says, you know, I know Trump is going to really do great things for me, and I'm going to probably make a lot of money because you get on the gravy train with Trump as long as you do exactly what he says. Guess what? The gravy train may not end at a very good station when I have to pay these huge punitive damages. And so it'll affect the cost-benefit analysis, even of greedy, slimy people.
Well, Jeanine Pirro has one thing to say about that, doesn't she, Albert?
You know what, pal?
Yeah.
You created havoc and chaos.
There she is in her, let me just ask you about a disturbing revelation that came out of the hearings. And I have to move this along. I only have a couple of minutes. But I want to, they looked at her burn book, they did blow up photography of it. And they could see that she had references to search patterns that certain questioners on the Democratic side had used in reviewing the Epstein files. So they've made the Epstein files available for review under very sort of severe circumstances, limited hours. I mean, these are legislators. They have to go back and forth to this inconvenient location, and they can bring no electronic equipment in and all that sort of thing, as you've heard. But what they've looked at, what each one of them has looked at, there's actually, it would seem, a search history record. One of the printouts that Bondi was referencing during the hearing was a list labeled Pramila Jayapal search history, referring to Congressperson Jayapal. The document listed out at least 8 different files from the Justice Department's trove of Epstein records, including their file numbers and brief descriptions of their contents. This is from this report from CBS. They snapped images, did photojournalists who covered the hearing, and then blew those images up. And it's not clear how the list was compiled, but it seems as though the Justice Department is monitoring the way in which various legislators are going in and looking at the Epstein files and reviewing and logging exactly what files they focused upon. Can you speak to this? It seems blatantly illegal.
May your enemy be stupid and have no and no craft at even what she's doing. She showed it in a way is that people, as you say, could photograph it, and so she got hoisted on her own petard. She was like the guy who walks into the bank and he holds the gun on one side. He thinks they'll never see the gun, and he doesn't realize there's a camera on that side. Well, Miss Bondi, there was a camera on you, and guess what? Cameras can zoom in and blow things up, and it probably showed her. It's an unethical thing, and Mark, we see a lot of this. This is why it's good to have a guest who's a criminal defense attorney, because not only have I been an assistant U.S. attorney, but I've also been a criminal defense attorney dealing with the government, and there's a lot of people who have some Bondi in them in U.S. attorneys' offices. And so when you go to see discovery, they make it as difficult for you as possible. They give you a hard time. They circumscribe it as much as possible. They give you a hard time. They don't have a sense of fair play. And then if there's a copier there, we found in several cases where they would know what you were copying, because the machine could go back and figure out what had been copied already. Instead of just making it blank. And so, that's your right. That's your right to look at the records and take what you want, just like they have a right, the government, when they review documents. They don't tell you, oh, we especially looked at 19 of them, but to see which 19 documents you bothered to copy or pages you bothered to copy is a kind of unethical, I think, cheating kind of thing that you see the government and some of the agents do. Fair amount. And Bondi is apparently from that school, but she got caught because you could see what her cheat sheet was. And apparently what they did was they made a record of whatever these Congress members, these Democratic Congress members did. And it looks like maybe the reason that they gave them access, Mark, was exactly to play this trick on the Democratic members. And, you know, one thing, Mark, I'm going to vote for Democratic Congress members in this next election. And if they don't impose the same rules on the Republicans when they get power, not all of them, okay, but if that's the way that we're going to do things in the future, that you get 4 hours to review something, okay, they have to tell the Republicans right now, if you are going to keep playing by these slanted rules, okay, these are precedents. This is really the way it's going to be. There's an investigation. You're going to have 4 hours. You know, this thing, Mark, was they didn't let any of their staff in there. I'll tell you this, it's a kind of term limits, Mark. We're not going to have 85 and 90-year-old Congress members anymore where they play by these rules that you can't even bring your staff member in. You have to make like old-fashioned notes of what it is in 3 million documents that you're allowed to review.
Yeah, it's crazy. And by the way, those watching were showing the picture of that was blown up so that you could actually see the search history of Jayapal and others. Go ahead. Yeah.
Again, I don't think that when the Democrats get power in the House again, they should be so rude like this. There has to be some balance. You know, what is the rule of law? What is fair? You know, the idea is the minority party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, can bring something to it. If they don't want to just sabotage it, they can bring something to it, right, Mark? They can bring a different perspective to it. That's the idea. We believe in this country. Listen to the other side. Let the other side participate. You'll get closer to the truth that way with having a real diversity of opinions. But the Republicans in the House are not about the diversity of opinions. Every one of this just seems like a railroad from Hegseth to Patel. And, you know, Patel was just as bad, coming in screaming at Adam Schiff. This is
well,
going
now
to go
this is the coin of the realm now, and this is they're all playing to the supreme leader, and so that's why this is all going fine for them. The supreme leader is happy, and that's really all they care about. They've tied their political viability, their future political viability, to this guy. I've got to move on to another question because I only have you for a limited time. But the other thing that's happening in relation to Epstein was this Ghislaine Maxwell appeal for clemency, even as she pleads the fifth. So she pleads the fifth. And I was saying before that generally, and I kind of remember this from the Trump depositions, you know, they ask the question, you plead the fifth. They ask another question, you plead the fifth. You ask the, and then you just keep having to plead the fifth. You have to plead it 70 times if they have 70 questions. She didn't do this. She kind of went, hey, I'm pleading the fifth on everything related to that. And just so you all know, that's what I'm doing. And then her attorney steps up and says, she'd like to say that, you know, she's willing to, she wants clemency and kind of made this naked appeal for clemency to Trump. The whole thing seemed like it was just a Zoom call to Trump. I wonder if you, and an angle for clemency. I wonder if you could speak to this, just the weird legality or lack of legality associated with this, and then this cheap appeal for clemency that might work.
She was always going to take the fifth. And I wouldn't trust a word that she said, even if she got clemency. And I think that would really be the end. I think that there would be an impeachment that would be joined in by Republican members of the House if Trump were to give her clemency. In fact, his own attorney general, that rude, snarky Bondi, said in one of her many rude comments, she said, I want to see Maxwell die in prison. It's kind of an unusual thing for the attorney general.
Yeah, that was wild. I was surprised by that too. Yeah.
Of the country to say she's so in the wrong position. Like I said, she's that neighbor that once you realize what she's like, you want to sell your house and never come back to the neighborhood.
But this is true. Her attorney, is friends with Todd Blanche, who went down and had the meeting with her over 2 days, and then moved her to a place where she could pursue yoga.
Mark, I'm going to a legal conference, white collar crime conference in San Diego next month. And supposedly Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney is going to be on one of the panels, which will be fascinating. And I'll be looking forward to reporting to the Mark Thompson show on what he has to say and what people's reactions to him are. But I just really can't believe that if you're Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, that you can show up at an event like that. I think there'll be demonstrations, there'll be something. I mean, and you know, the idea that he's some great deal. This doesn't
end with clemency, is what you're saying.
He's a friend of Blanche's. He's a friend of Blanche. What's the great legal talent that he's had? He lost all of his appeals for her. He lost in the U.S. Supreme Court. They didn't grant cert. He got Todd Blanche to go down there. I mean, you can say that that's lobbying. That's getting your buddy Todd Blanche to do something that you really want. And the other thing that's interesting in this whole case, again, the Republicans are so, you know, they don't care. They don't want to get to the truth. The Democrats will keep pounding that. But, you know, she has to take the fifth with everybody. She didn't take the fifth with Todd Blanche. Now that she's talked about it, there's a very good argument that she's waived her privilege under the Fifth Amendment. If you want to keep secrets under the Fifth Amendment, you need to hold those secrets secret. She didn't hold the secrets secret. She blabbed about all of that stuff to Todd Blanche when she could have taken the fifth. And now the argument Congress should make is that you're selectively invoking it as to us. They should order her to answer the questions. When she doesn't do it under the Fifth Amendment, they should go to court and they should have her held in contempt. And that should be added to her existing sentence as a consecutive sentence for contempt. But I don't think Comer is going to do that. What do you think, Mark?
No, of course not. I mean, that's such a quaint idea. The old school laws that might hold someone into account, even someone who's a sexual predator of the sort that Ghislaine Maxwell clearly is. I mean, tried and convicted of that. I have to ask you about now immigration quickly. Idaho families are suing over the immigration raids in Idaho that swept up hundreds, including U.S. citizens. It's about 400 people, including children and, as I say, citizens detained for hours and denied food and water in this raid. And this is a lawsuit brought by the ACLU. Can you just speak to the status of that and perhaps how it may influence policy going forward?
Well, you know, two awful things are happening. One are these raids and how they're making people suffer, both immigrants and U.S. citizens, green card holders. They're making all these people suffer and their children suffer. And the other lesser bad thing about them is that you and I, Mark, and all the other taxpayers of America are going to be paying out big awards on account of the violations of people's civil and constitutional rights by ICE and by the government. So they go into some horse race, and I guess they think that, you know, Latinos like this kind of horse racing. So they go there and they detain hundreds of people, and you have to prove that you're a citizen or have a green card before they let you go, which means that citizens and people with green cards were kept there for hours. Their babies and children were kept there for hours until they could persuade these ICE officers that they were really citizens or green card holders. Just outrageous, Mark. And then, of course, what the immigrants and the people that they deemed to be illegal, of course, some of them, they got it wrong. So they detained those people and they actually put them in jail afterwards. And then they had to release them. And then there are, of course, the people who end up being rightly deportable from the United States, Mark. But this was not the way it was supposed to be. The worst of the worst. There's a way to get the worst of the worst. Trump 1 did it. Obama did it. Biden did it. You get them when they're being released from prison or jail. You get them in other ways, not by these mass roundups, not by going to, like, I mean, people were worried they were going to go to the Super Bowl. People are worried they're going to go to the World Cup games because, yes, they think that's a target-rich environment of people working hard in this country, raising kids, but who don't have all of their papers in order. That is not what even Trump voters voted for. And I think that that's why Trump is becoming so unpopular, even on what used to be his most popular issue. Because
well, he's definitely, no, he's at low ebb on that. But let me get back to the legal part.
Okay.
You know, you can't just be detained for 4 hours in this case. It seems like most people are 4 hours. It might have been longer in some cases. Denied food and water, and then go, oh, you know, our bad, I'm sorry, and then released. This idea somehow that they are scooping up people and, you know, brutally. I mean, these people are zip tied. They're detained in this brutal manner, which is clearly something that these thugs enjoy, and then they're released. That is illegal and it's actionable, is it not, Attorney Katz? I mean, yeah.
These billions of dollars that they gave to ICE to make it the most funded law enforcement agency
they'll be using it to pay for these judgments.
Yes, they're going to pay for these judgments. And the other thing they're paying for is these private prisons. These private prisons will be a scandal for the ages. I think even in the Japanese internment camps, as huge a scandal as that was, I think that was at least the government But there's all of these profiteers. They have a huge interest in not giving them enough food and water and not giving them medical attention because it's the bottom line. And they're lobbyists. They have Trump in their pocket. And many of these jails that we're talking about, many of these billions of dollars are to build these private jails for allegedly illegal aliens, to the extent that they are. 70-80% of these people, Mark, that they're going to put in these jails and make all of this profit are just hardworking people that we need in this country. I will stand up and say we need them in this country. There was some right-wing area that decided to have, as they say, a day without a Mexican. Maybe they lasted a week without a Mexican. And after a week without a Mexican, this very right-wing community in Texas said, we can't survive like this. Who are going to be the dishwashers? Who are going to be the gardeners? Who are going to do the menial jobs? The country needs them, and it's so unfair to act like this is all awful. And what are these people doing here when we need them so desperately for our economy? And of course, they don't want to have immigration reform. The Republicans do not want to have immigration reform. And there are some far left Democrats who don't want to have meaningful immigration reform. They have to come somewhere in the middle, Mark. They just have to. I had no idea this was going to be this huge a problem. I mentioned on your show, when I was a student journalist, I crossed the border and I wrote a story for the Daily Cal, and they put it somewhere in the middle pages. Then the editor said, no one cares about immigration.
Wow.
There were words of wisdom from 40 years ago. It was like the 20th issue that people cared about. No one cares about immigration, but you have to have a much more rational system than we have with Trump.
Well, I mean, even the rational legislation that had been poised to end up on Biden's desk was derailed by Trump for reasons that he expressly said were political. He didn't want the political cudgel that immigration reform represented for him on the campaign trail to somehow be removed by there actually being some sort of reform associated with immigration happening on the Biden watch. So you had this bipartisan bill associated with immigration legislation that was derailed by Trump. And so now here he is with this defining legislation or defining budgetary line item associated with DHS. It's ridiculous in its scope and in how bloated it is. The amount of money that is this is hundreds of millions of dollars being dedicated to buying warehouse space across the country. These warehouses can house 10 to 12,000 people. You think they're just going to stop at illegal immigrants when you have these camps, these detention centers being built on that level? I think it's going to expand beyond this. This is a 5-alarm fire in my judgment. And it, as you said, it's sort of wild that it was in prior conversations, immigration was played down the list because it may be the defining issue of our time. And I in our last minute, I want to ask you something that's a little maybe obscure, but it is very much in the law and in your sweet spot. A panel of judges in New York appointed a new top federal prosecutor, reading from a piece here, in Albany. This happened just yesterday after a Trump nominee was found to be serving in the role unlawfully. But within hours, the Justice Department announced that it had fired the judge's new hire. This is after months of friction between the Trump administration and the federal judiciary over, who is allowed to lead the U.S. attorney's offices around the country. And so the judges in Albany, in this northern district of New York, said that they'd appointed and sworn in a new person to lead the U.S. attorney's office, former prosecutor Donald D. Kinsella. They cited a law that allows judges to temporarily name people to that job in that role if it becomes vacant, because an interim U.S. attorney's term has expired. So again, right away, though, the Justice Department steps in and fires that person. Can you just speak to this and how it reflects what's going on and how significant it is?
Well, this sounds sort of funny and inside baseball to people, but this is actually important. The idea is that there are 94 U.S. attorneys around the country, and they have tremendous power and influence in their particular district. Like here we have the Central District of California, which goes all the way from north of Santa Barbara, almost to San Diego, and all the way out to the Nevada border. It's the largest district in the country. And the districts in New York are also large. The Southern District of New York is famous. The Eastern District is the one that's out in Brooklyn and Queens. And this Northern District is, up north in the state, has less population and tends to have less significant cases than we do in Southern California and the New York City area. But the idea is that the senators confirm the U.S. attorney. They're a superior officer. They're not just inferior officers. They're people like cabinet members. They're like U.S. district judges. They have real power and influence, and the Senate has historically always had a voice. Now, when the president comes into power on January 20th and they want to get rid of the previous president's U.S. attorney because there are political decisions, judgment decisions that are made, they have a right for it to turn over with the Senate's consent as to who that person will be. So they're acting or temporary U.S. attorneys, let's say from January 20th to January 30th to maybe the end of February. And then that senatorial advice and consent function has to kick in. Trump has come up with people who are so repugnant to the senators that even a Republican Senate, which could confirm them all by itself, they could vote their 53 votes, but there are 5 or 6 of them that hold their nose and say, oh my God, this person has no experience. This person is a right-wing zealot. I don't want this person in such a sensitive role. So Trump around the country has decided that he cannot get 53 Republican senators to agree, or 51 of them, or 50 with Vance's vote. He can't even get 50 with Vance's vote in the Central District of California. Right here, we have this huge problem. We have a case on appeal whether the person acting in that role is legitimate or not. That's going on right here in the biggest district in the country. In New Jersey, they had the person, she had to leave, and this Hannigan, the one who brought the case against Comey and someone else, she had to leave. And so the argument, Mark, is that in those situations, the government keeps arguing, Trump keeps arguing, that he can play games. There's no question that he's playing games. So he makes the person acting, or his new tack is to make them the first assistant U.S. attorney. So he never puts the name through Congress. He knows Congress won't ever approve them. So right here in L.A., we have the first assistant U.S. attorney. So he never has to go through this process. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court or the courts of appeal will find this is illegal. And where the rubber hits the road is, do you then dismiss the case? Are we going to have some awful drug dealing case? Are we going to have some huge fraud here, one that Trump doesn't want to pardon, kicked out because it's illegitimate? Like that Hannigan, Mark, in the Eastern District of Virginia. She was just another person. I mean, there's very, very few people who have the right to indict people. A legitimately selected U.S. attorney or someone working for him or her has the right to indict people. The Supreme Court or the courts of appeal rule that these people are not properly picked, do all the cases fall? And that's why the courts are reluctant. Now, what Blanche says is that he can go around the country and pick anybody that he wants. I don't believe it. I have a case right now. He's on my indictment because they're worried that if it's just this first assistant U.S. attorney here, that they'll find him to be illegitimate and they'll say the indictment falls. Everything that happened in the case falls and is invalid. So we've got Todd Blanche on the indictment. And let me mention one last thing. One of the things that the senators have, which is a huge power, is what they call the blue slip. This idea that only a U.S. attorney can serve with senatorial approval spares them, like in these Republican states. Think about it. Even a Democratic president can never pick a U.S. attorney that they don't like. Maybe a U.S. attorney who investigates that Republican senator, maybe the crony of that Republican senator. It's a huge power that the senators have. And right now, the senators are giving up that power. So here's something that Obama never would have done. But remember when they didn't put Merrick Garland, they wouldn't even give him a vote? Okay. Under the way it is right now, under what Trump and the Republican senators are doing right now, Obama could have fired the U.S. attorney in Kentucky. He could have put the biggest zealot, the biggest anti-McConnell Democrat he could have found. That fellow could have started launching investigations, taking cases to the grand jury like they just did in Washington, D.C., taking all the... Did Obama do that? No. Should Obama have done that? No. Don't the Republicans realize that that's exactly what they're setting a precedent for?
Sure. I mean, this is, if the Democrats ever regain power, I should say.
They will.
No. I hope you're right. I think American elections are very much in doubt right now, but that's for a topic for another conversation, and it's a grim one. But I'd love to have it with you. Let's just do it, in the future. We're out of time. David, you're so generous with your time. You know how grateful I am for that. And have a great weekend and a happy Valentine's Day. You are our legal Valentine, David Katz. I just want to say that.
That's so nice of you to say. Bring out my Valentine's, Kim. Kim, come out here.
Kim, could you, if you wouldn't mind, Kim, taking
Hi, hello, my Valentine.
Day.
Happy Valentine's to you,
You
David.
and I are celebrating over 7 years together since we were both on
Girl,
that
you just
show.
Yeah,
I've only been with Mark for a couple of years, but so okay.
And
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's. Thank you for keeping this relationship going and appearing on the Mark Thompson show every Thursday.
And kiss people casually.
I love you for
And
it.
you had
I
my
love
mom
you for
on.
it.
You and Pat
Thank
had
you.
my mom on when
I
she was still
remember.
alive on Mother's Day.
Awesome.
A blessing to you. Mark,
Well,
take
You
care.
too.
This is very sweet.
Oh, girl,
and,
baby girl. Don't
Yeah.
even play.
I'm reclaiming my time. Thank you, guys. Very
Great
well
line,
done.
great
Nice
line.
to see you,
And
David.
I'm still talking.
Thank you.
The
my
Mark
brother.
Thompson Show.
All right, I am over time on this show. My God.
At least he
Katsadamas,
likes
his
me.
prediction came true. There's a lot there. Please share that segment.
I don't really feel a lot of love from you, so at least I get some from Cass.
Well, you're not going to get it from me. I'm
I
not.
know.
I'm not.
Trust me.
Yeah, I am
I'm
not.
aware.
It's not where you come.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
You're damn
I mean,
straight. I
first
am
you
not.
said Tony
That's
was
not
the
fake.
employee of
That's
the week.
real.
Right.
Then
What
you
is
said
that, Kim?
Albert was the employee of the week. Never
Yeah.
once did you mention me as the employee
Well,
of the week.
heal thyself is what I would say to you.
You don't hold your breath, right?
Nothing.
I am.
I have a busy week.
Yeah, I know. I always hear you have a busy week. Well, I
Yeah.
am.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
I'm trying,
Yeah.
but I don't know. All right. It's look.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Trying really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Thompson, party of four.
I know. Thank you. I'll get to. This is something I really wish we could do and get to some of these super chats before the end of the show. I maybe could get to some kind of policy on this. If you kids could figure something out on this, I'd appreciate
And
it.
now, your comments.
Art is fine says the SAVE Act is an attempted abolition of voting rights for married women who had adopted their husband's name, and goes even further than that, if I understand it correctly. Thank you, Art is fine, for 10 euros. And you're right. The SAVE Act is an abomination. The SAVE Act has way more associated with it than what you're talking about. But even if it just had that, it would be an abomination. It's a way to disenfranchise so many from the voter rolls. This is a high art with the GOP. And I think you're going to be seeing it on blast in this next election. Mark will probably get 5 drops out of that hearing yesterday, says Jim Slayton. You're right. I did pull a couple of drops. I did.
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Yeah, that's one. And
We're gonna have to go for reclaiming my time.
oh yeah.
I'm sorry. We have to go.
That is that's what's his name, Lutnik. Yeah, I got that. But I still have to work on that one. But I like
That was over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing.
Yeah. I think I want Albert, if you can, on that one. Just clip me. I don't know why you're laughing.
Yeah, that's
That's the part that I want. And then the Dow was over 50,000. That should be a separate drop. But the two together is. I
That
think,
was over $50,000.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're laughing.
yeah, just clip them. Just cut that in half would be my request, please. But and of course, you know what I want. I absolutely want reclaiming my time. So you still get me that give it to me from Nadler and from anybody else. Reclaiming my time. I get 45 seconds back. I want a minute back. Send me some of those if you would, please, Albert, today. Eugenio, they are now. Come on.
Eugenio.
Sorry I missed you and your gang. I went to Mexico to visit my family.
Oh, great.
Well, bienvenido. And welcome back. But I'm back, he says. Nice to heart you or hear you. I'm guessing he meant hear. But I don't mind being hearted. Luis says the Kennedy Center. Luis is so fun. Big shout out to all of you who have hit us with super chats. And I want to say something, and then I'll get to Luis's comment. But I want to say something here at the end of the show. And I know that there are not as many people watching at the end of the show as are watching during the show. So make sure I make this comment and make this statement or some bit of this sentiment clear to everybody during the peak viewing part of the show tomorrow. I'm so grateful for this audience and the way you've supported us on PayPal and Patreon. And there'll be in the months ahead special things that you'll have access to on Patreon and PayPal, I hope, to kind of reward all of these many months. But even if that doesn't come to pass, I'm working on a bunch of different ways in which we can be industrious this year, in the year ahead. I'm just so grateful for it because it lets me plan. It lets me put finances toward different things that are so critical to keeping this channel running. And when you sign up on Patreon and PayPal for monthly donations, or when you send us a check, I mean, there are a couple of people who've sent checks to us because you prefer that kind of old school way of doing it, or you don't want to deal with internet and whatever your view is, which is perfectly fine. And if you send me an email, I'll tell you where to send that check. themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com is my address. But I just want you to know that it lets me then plan for these ways in which we can dedicate capital toward everything from getting the word out to trying to do things with the channel that help sustain the channel. It's not sustainable with just a YouTube model. It's just not. So my YouTube money evaporates immediately. So I need the support that you've given me. And this is not a pitch. It's really more a thank you. So thank you for the support, and thank you for all the ways that you support and continue to have a loyalty to this channel. It means a tremendous amount to me personally. And thank you so, so much. I wish I had a drop that said thank you so, so much.
Thank you so, so much.
Oh, I do. I do have a drop that says thank you.
I'm not going to cry. Would I think be more applicable?
You're right. I'm not going to.
I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry.
I am cry adjacent when I talk about this stuff. So thank you. There it is, The Mark Thompson Show, live daily, 11 to 1 Pacific time. And you can support the show. Visit themarkthompsonshow.com, Patreon or PayPal links to become part of our monthly. Now, let me get back to Luis. This is Luis. Kennedy Center, meet Trump Plaza, Taj Mahal, and Trump Marina. Welcome to bankruptcy. It was a good run, but now you're as dead as JFK. Wow. It's a cold room, mother effers. Hashtag bankruptcy king. It's true. Everything he touches, he will turn to a failure. Why can't the Dems hold Bondi in contempt and lock her up? Tony Ladowdy, I saw that comment, and that's why I asked David Katz about that comment. It was because of your super chat. So thank you. Big shout out to you. Hollywood Cowgirl for $20 super chat. Happy Valentine's weekend. Mark, Kim, Albert, and Tony. I'm giving my Tennessee Walker a big horse cookie for Valentine's Day. I wish Sweet 106 made horse cookies. Big shout out to you. Big shout out. Hollywood Cowgirl. I don't know where she lives, but I wonder.
Girl, you just woo.
Yeah, wherever you are, you're just woo. Depressed Canadian with a $20 super chat.
Big shout out.
Dems cannot, quote, turn the page if they get back into power, as they did before. The GOP will only get worse without any genuine legal consequences. They have to make the taken for granted norms actual laws that are enforced. Mm-hmm. Of course, you're right. And I think that is the directive that David Katz, for example, makes clear all the time. And I'd also say that, you know, on some level, you've now seen the malevolence of this crew. It's incompetence and malevolence. Hegseth, Bondi, Patel, they are incompetent, and they are also malevolent. And that's a super dangerous combination. Of course, Trump is, he heads that parade. Richard Delamater says with a $5 super
Big
chat,
shout out.
I right now just got my taxes back and paid off my Visa card. Well, that is always good. Wahoo, he says. Sayonara, sucker.
That's pure speculation.
I think
Sayonara, sucker.
I've got a big chunk left. Should I go do what today? Casino? I think that's a pretty good idea. Yeah, turn that into real money, right?
Seriously, what the
You get nothing, Mark. Good day, sir, says Chaplain Fred. Yeah, I get
get nothing.
It's true.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, it's a very tough room. We run a tough ship. Well, I'd love to hang out, but I can't. We've done all we can, right, Albert? There ain't no more.
That's it.
Sayonara, sucker. That's it.
Old Hanson says, why does Trump need money? He doesn't pay contractors or his lawyers. It's true. Well, you can buy a lot of stuff with money, I guess, is the thinking. Yeah. Deirdre Lozica says, Kim, you should go straight to trivia since Mark can't stop yapping.
Oh,
wow.
Okay,
I really,
so noted.
what?
It's Trivia Thursday on the after party. So.
I think this is Kim's first love, is that after party live. I think that's her.
Sure don't
this
get
is
any
all
love
just
on
a
Mark
warm up.
Rumpel.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about me yapping.
You're the best yapper I know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Best wishes to you all from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, says Glenn B. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Tomorrow, a discussion of the health of Donald Trump.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Johnson Show. Bye-bye.
You got to hear this tomorrow, man. Tell
Out of time. Bye-bye.
all your friends to be here tomorrow, plus Florida and the rest. Until then, bye-bye.